If you watched episode 1, then you're probably going to enjoy episode 2. And if you haven't watched episode 1, this is episode 2, just letting you know real quick. So, obviously, it's what the title says. And the first zone that we're starting with is assassins. As you can see on the screen, there's 2 different types of assassins, but there's actually 3. The main 2 types that you encounter if you don't go out of your way are, as displayed, the red ones fit level 50 and the brown ones level 45. So, as far as scaling goes, the power level of an assassin is, I'd say, like a castle guard. They aren't OP, but they're capable fighters. Imagine like the band of bandits. Like, they aren't so strong, but they're definitely capable. And the level 50 ones, I would say that they are like castle guards. Castle guards aren't necessarily the strongest characters that you think of, but they still have like a creed, and they still train, and they still live a lifestyle of like upholding something. So I just feel like assassins are on that level also because their level is higher than the pharaohs, which are a monster. So it's not just the fact that these assassins are so low that's a threat. In the assassin zone, it's a maze, and you can get ganked by the assassins really easily. So you're not fighting one assassin at a time most of the time. And then the fact that you have to keep trying to navigate through the maze unless you know the way. And that's the first 2 types of assassins, but there is another type of assassin, and this is where it starts to get a little bit real, because these level 55 assassins, they are called ninja assassins, and they have the ability to teleport. Now, if that's not something that you can fathom, I will compare that to Gambit. See, Gambit from X-Men. The idea of having a person who is adept at fighting is one thing, but having a ninja makes them a whole nother caliber, because these are ninjas that are capable of teleporting, and it's not like any holds barred. They can teleport. As far as fighting that goes, it would be hard to fight that. You can imagine a low-level adventurer encountering someone who's just teleporting around them. I think this is like the first instance of meeting a mob in the game, or a entity in the game that's using magic like this. Eventually we're going to start running into some higher level magic, because this is just spiral magic, and it's very simple. They're just teleporting a couple of spaces, so it's not like they're out here casting fireballs at you. But up until this point, you're not fighting other wizards of your level. There's no PvP zone for you yet until you reach this next zone. After you clear the maze, you reach Zoms. Zoms is obviously short for zombies, and it's a graveyard. Once you clear the maze, you enter this graveyard, and it becomes a PK zone. There's no longer the safety of the law. You see, before this point, you had no worries about other players being able to target you for your gold, or just because they wanted to kill you. But now you have to watch your back for other adventurers, because they can kill you if they have the gold to kill you. So with that being said, zombies is the graveyard on the other side of the maze, and they are level 65. Now, in the last episode I explained that these zombies are actually stronger than what you see or you expect of a zombie if you live in the West. And that's more the level of the mummies. The mummies are actually the slow-moving, like, easy to kill. But these zombies are actually special in Rucoy. And here's the reason why. In Rucoy, the graveyard is actually where all of the dead heroes are, and thus these zombies come back via some form of magic, necromancy, the evil god Rick Sanchez. No, not Rick Sanchez from Rick and Morty. That's the developer's name, the head developer of Rucoy. It's Ricardo Sanchez. But yeah. So via some form of necromancy or something like that, these zombies are reborn, and they are not sluggish. They're actually beyond the strength of the average human, and they can withstand. They can sustain lots of damage. They are actually the bodies of warriors in this graveyard. It's not like common folk, like, oh, there's a little kid zombie. No, all of the zombies you're encountering were fighters in some right. Now, the next form of mob that you will reach is actually very close to the zombies. Rick pressed a button on the whole undead theme and busted it out right now. So you have, after zombies, you have skeletons. They're just level 70 skeletons. You can imagine what a skeleton, an entity like a skeleton is. It's a threat, you know. Throne skeletons, all types of skeletons. Then you have the skeleton archer, and that is obviously lower defense than the regular skeletons, but it can attack you from range, so you gotta be able to take some arrows, you know. Now, while skeletons themselves seem insignificant, the next level of skeleton is at level 90, and these skeletons possess all the abilities of the other undead, except they're all wearing this. As you can see, there's a sword, a little helmet, and shield, a large shield. So what I'm trying to imply is that all of the skeleton warriors are suited up. They have on armor, weapons, and a shield. It's like in Minecraft, you know. You sometimes run into the regular skeleton, but then you meet that occasional skeleton with enchanted gold armor. Well, all of the skeleton warriors have enchanted gold armor. And along with that, the skeleton warriors don't spawn in with the level 70s, but level 75s do spawn in. So skeleton warriors can trap you, and then you have the archers shooting from behind them, hitting you. So it starts to become a little bit more dangerous, as you can see entering the PK zone. The next level entity is level 100. Now, the vampires are a strange race, because while other vampires walk around and leave their domains, Rucoy vampires actually stick to the Vampire King's lair. Now, level 100 vampires are blue, and they are the lowliest of the vampires. They have the least strength. They don't possess any magic, but they're obviously vampires, so they're pretty strong. The next type of vampire is a level 110 vampire. These vampires are red because they're descendants of the Vampire King himself. Now, the Vampire King is the highest level entity, and here's where it gets a little confusing. There's level 110 vampires who are stronger because they have more of a connection to the Vampire King. But the Vampire King summons in vampire princes. That's another type of vampire. They're stronger than a level 110 vampire, and they are only spawning in when the Vampire King is there. So you can imagine the range of power between the vampires. Obviously, a Vampire King is such a strong entity and someone to be reckoned with. We've seen Vampire Kings in many amalgamations you can imagine what it's like having a regime of such strong warriors that will all only stay with you and only want to serve you. The Vampire King is truly a force to be reckoned with, as like all the other bosses, we can't truly kill him, and he will always be reborn. The term Vampire King leaves you with so many other works for yourself to just recognize and know. I mean, it rings a bell to a lot of different characters. The lair in which there's different types of vampires and the vampire bloodline and summoning vampire princes. That's very typical and generic, so I don't think I have to go too far into that. But by no means does that mean that the Vampire King is weak. As I said before, he summons in other vampires, and it does take a decent amount of players or guilds put together to come and kill the Vampire King. The Vampire King is also the first boss that is announced on the server, so there's a little announcement every time that bosses higher level than the Vampire King are spawned in. As you know, there's 2 other bosses before the Vampire King, but that's in part 1. I know at the end there, it got kind of rambunctious. I don't know. It's hard to think of what a boss would be like, because bosses have so many abilities. For one, they don't really die. I mean, you can kill them, but they're just gonna come back later. And then 2, he has the ability to summon in lower entities. He can withstand so many barrages of relatively powerful magic. I mean, level 100 can easily one-shot some pretty low-level mobs like goblins or a regular zombie. Well, mummy. But you know, it was still fun to try. I hope that you guys come by for part 3 of this series, because I'm kind of enjoying it. And once we get past all of these lower tier mobs or entities, it'll be a lot more fun, because we're going to run into some cool stuff.